This Eurobit 386 looks terrible, but we're going to fix that today. I admit I paid too much for this thing, but take a look at these photos. Is that even the same machine? We've got to get this thing back to its former glory. And that's just the outside of the machine. What are we going to find when we open this thing up? Hello everyone and welcome back to PC Retro Tech. If you haven't guessed, today we're on a rescue mission. And about the only thing that's going to stop us is if this beautiful sunny day gets clouded over. We need the sun to activate the chemicals I'm going to be using, and that's not going to reach my balcony until later today. But while we're waiting for that, let's save this thing from certain death and then take a look at what else is inside this machine. I've removed some of the cables already, but we've got to get that mainboard out so I can remove that leaky battery. And that should just be a matter of taking the cards out of the back of the machine and then unscrewing the mainboard, which is actually pretty easy to get at in this machine. On closer inspection, the board's held in with these plastic clips. There's no screws at all. Well, now you can see all the salts and corrosive liquids that are coming out of the end of this thing, and I'd cut this off with some snips, but I can't get in under the leads, so I'm going to have to unsolder this battery. For extra irritation, this battery is actually glued to the PCB, so I have to unsolder it and lever it with a screwdriver at the same time. I think we got one end. Let's see if we can get the other end off. Seems to have got it. Let's see if we can take it out. Let's see if we can get some of this plastic glue off so we can see if there's any damage to the PCB. Just the last little bit to remove that, and yeah, that's the battery gone. Look at this mess. It's disgusting. I'll just start with an alcohol wipe just so we can get a better look at what's going on here. But I've been wiping this stuff off with a rag and just getting a screwdriver and just rubbing the surface of the board, and it's really coming off. And I can see the traces shining through now, so I don't think we've lost traces at all. This 3.6 volt lithium battery is much better. It's got a Velcro strip and I can stick it to the back of my machine, and it just plugs straight onto this external battery connector. What a time to have my camera die. I wanted to get this stuff out to the sun as quickly as possible because it just doesn't last very long in the afternoons here. And then of course I had technical difficulties. So I've gone ahead off camera and put the cream peroxide solution on the plastic and covered everything in plastic wrap, and we'll come back a little bit later and see what difference it's made. While that stuff's sun tanning, let's take a closer look at the machine. You can see that it was made by a company called Eurobit, and you might not recognize the language here, but this machine actually came from Slovenia. When I had technical difficulties earlier, I actually removed a couple of the connectors from the back of the machine. They were just being used to cover these holes here, and the cables were hanging loose inside. They weren't actually connected. So I've replaced these with some metal covers that I found, and it's a little bit of a shame that I don't have the original plastic ones that would have gone in these holes. It looks a bit forlorn without its faceplate, doesn't it? But when I took that off, I actually noticed something else wrong. This hard drive is loose. It's just connected with two screws on the side. So I need to get some brackets and put this in properly. It's one of those machines where you have to take the floppy drive out to get to the screws on the side of the hard drive. But it's not too bad. There are just two screws at the top and one on the side here, and then the whole thing will just slide out. And now I can actually get to the screws to screw that adapter in that I've just installed. And I think that should fix that problem. Well, that looks more like it. The hard drive's really solidly in there now. So while we have this box open, let me show you why I purchased this particular machine. Well, apart from the fact that this machine hopefully looks good when it's cleaned up, and it's small and light so I can move it about easily, it's also laid out inside quite well, so it shouldn't be too hard to work on. But more importantly, it has an AMD 386DX 40 chip in it, and this is going to be quite fast. I have a compact 386S machine with an Intel 386SX chip, but this is a cut-down version of the 386. It only has a 16-bit data bus, whereas this DX chip, which came later, has 32 bits again. And by that stage, the motherboard technology has improved radically. So I'm going to show you today just how much faster this will go. Before I screw everything back together, let me show you the boards that came in this machine. There's just two, unfortunately, no sound card. But never fear, I've got something really cool for sound, which I'll show you a bit later. Now, this is just a standard floppy and hard drive controller, nothing unusual there. But this video card has me intrigued. It's obviously a 16-bit VGA card, but it has licensed by Macronix on it. It's an Octet board made in 1992, and it has a chipset which I've never heard of before, an MX86010. So this is a real win. I'm really looking forward to trying this out today and comparing it to other 16-bit VGA cards that we're familiar with to see what this is all about. But this week afternoon sun has already run out, so let's get these parts inside and see if we've made any difference to their colour. There's no denying the peroxide cream's made a difference, and you can see that around the stickers where the peroxide couldn't go. There's a darker shade of beige behind those. But I'm going to leave those stickers on because that's part of the history of the machine. But you can also see that I'm going to need another 1 or 2 trips to the sun. This is really still quite yellow, and let's hope there's some more sun tomorrow before I finish making this video and we can give it another go. I think we've done enough pampering for now. It's time to turn the machine on and see if it even works. You can see I've stuck the battery to the side of the case at the back here, and I put all the cards and cables back in. I've left the faceplates off for now because there's actually a forecast for a second day of sunshine. Let's switch this thing on. We should expect it to complain about the battery, of course it hasn't had a working one for a long time. So let's go into standard CMOS settings. Now the seller tells me that the drive here is type 29, so we can just select that without having to put all the settings in. And it looks like it'll be 68 megabytes. And then there's a 1.2 megabyte, 5.25, and there's also a 3.5 inch drive in this. So let's save those. Then we have the advanced CMOS setup. And the only interesting one I see here is the internal cache, but that probably can't be changed. Yeah, I wouldn't expect that on a 386. So then we have advanced chipset set up. And it looks like there's one wait state that we could remove, and there's a couple of timings we could change. But this machine is not for overclocking, so I'm not going to bother with those now. Let's just write that to the CMOS, and we'll see if the hard drive will boot. Now the seller says that it does work and that there's software on it. It should be Windows and WordStar. So let's see if it'll recognize the drive. And something seems to be happening. It's starting MS-DOS. It's installing a mouse driver and some other software. I don't know what that is. Oh, and it looks like there's a menu system. So indeed, there's WordStar, Windows, and PC Shell. I don't know what this is. So let's run that and see what it looks like. Reading system areas. It looks like it's looking for something on the floppy drive, so I'll just ignore that for now. And again, it seems to be okay now. Oh, it's mouse driven. Okay, so it has a whole load of file operations, and you can copy disk, format disk, search disk, park disk, verify disk. Interesting. Yeah, so quite a lot of stuff here. Mirror, compressed disk, backup format, and then you can go into Microsoft Windows. Yeah, pretty cool. So that's PC Shell. I've never seen that before. So let's go back to our menu, and this time we'll go into Microsoft Windows. So this will probably take some time. It says it's a Central European version. I've just skipped ahead here. It's about 20 seconds or so, and we have a mouse cursor at least, so I think this is actually going to load. Yep, looks like it's bringing up Program Manager, and it's working. Great. So Genius MouseMate. Well, I don't have the original Genius mouse. I'm just using a standard serial mouse. WinImage. Looks like Minesweeper and Solitaire, but with a foreign language. And there's some applications here. Microsoft Word, Quattro Pro, Excel, and Floorplan Plus. I wonder if these are actually on here or whether the seller's taken these off. I'll see if we can get into Floorplan Plus. Maybe we can design a new studio for PC RetroTech. That would be cool. And I've skipped ahead again, and yeah, that seems to load up just fine. So let's design a studio. We'll need a floor, of course. We'll make it nice and square. And obviously we'll need a door, so let's put a door on. That's interesting, it doesn't seem to like the door. I wonder if we can put a window on our studio. No windows. Okay, I don't know what's going on there. Let's see if the stairs work. Surely we can get some stairs. Yeah, so we can get stairs, and we'll need a railing. You can't have a studio without a railing. Anyway, yeah, this seems to work, which is fantastic, and the performance here is actually quite good. So I'm keen to try out a game. So what I'm going to do is put Flight Sim 3 on, because I want to do a comparison with the compact 386S machine that I have. That has the 386SX processor, and of course it's half the speed as well in megahertz. Well, as you can see, I have Microsoft Flight Simulator running on both of the machines here, and I think it's pretty obvious which one is the 386DX. It's running at about 10 frames a second instead of 5, and that's exactly what you'd expect since it is twice as fast. Admittedly, when I first started this, I actually had the turbo switch off, and I was a bit worried for a while because it looked like they were running at about the same speed. But as soon as I figured out what the problem was, then I realized that this is actually way quicker. And this is really the reason that I bought this machine. If I'm doing coding for a 386 demo with VGA, say, then I really want a fast machine to do development on that still has all the same specs, more or less. And then, compilation goes quicker. I can see what things look like if they're going flat out, and then I can run them back on the slower machine, my compact 386S, if I want to see what it's going to run like on someone else's computer. But yeah, this is looking pretty nice. You can see there's a nice nighttime scene here. It seems like this would be completely playable at 10 frames per second. I was so used to the compact 386S, I didn't even notice at first that this machine was slow. It turns out we've actually been running it the whole time with the turbo off. So that's really how much difference it makes. It literally doubles the speed of everything. Well, another beautiful day. It is just slightly cloudier, and it's certainly a lot colder today, but I think this is going to hold out till this afternoon, and we'll get another day in the sun for some of those yellow parts. Well, we've been pretty lucky with the sun. We've got a second day of sunshine, and I've just stuck everything back out again, but I noticed that one of the ends of the big face plate was really yellow, so I've actually turned that to face the sun so it'll get a bit more exposure. But let's leave everything out here, and then we'll come back a bit later and see how it looks. What you see on the screen at the moment is the Superscape Benchmark, and I'm running it on 4 different graphics cards. The MX card, which is the card that came with this machine, a slow card, it's a Paradise 88 chipset, a medium card, ET3000AX, a Sanglabs card, and then the fastest card that I have that'll run in a 16-bit ISA slot, which is the Sanglabs ET4000AX. So I've just timed each of these cards with this benchmark, and we'll see how it compares. So I think the ET4000 is nearly finished, and you can see that got 14.9 frames per second, so that's the fastest card. And the MX has got 13.5, so it actually makes it the second fastest card out of these 4, and then the Paradise comes up with 12.6 and ET3000 is 10.6. So that's an impressive result. Now I've done the same thing for the PC Player benchmark, and this actually wouldn't run until I upgraded the memory on the machine. So I went ahead and put in 16 megabytes of memory. Amazingly, there are 4 meg sims in this 30 pin configuration, so there's 4 of those, and that gives 16 megabytes. And again, we'll see that the Sanglabs ET4000 finishes first with a score of 3.6, but look at the MX, that's 3.5. It's only just behind, and still ahead of the Paradise and the ET3000AX. Great news. The final demo that I'm running here is Doom, and I'm just running it in a minimized window. I think on a 386, this is about the size you have to have it if you want it playable. So this will take quite a long time to run, so I'm just going to skip ahead until it starts giving scores. I think the ET4000 is about to finish, so we should get a score for it fairly shortly. I think this is the final sequence here. It just goes around the corner and that's it. So yeah, we get 3059 real ticks, and that's actually the fastest again. And it looks like the MX is finished at 3210. So again, it's come in second. That's really amazing. I'm very impressed with this card. I don't have any other cards that run at this speed. And now the Paradise finishes with 3660, and it looks like the ET3000 is pretty slow. It's going to give a score of 4093. So yeah, really amazing. This MX card seems to be quite a fast card. It's not the fastest I've got, but still a very, very impressive deal. Before we get all the parts in from the sun, which seems to have run out for the day, I said I was going to put a decent sound card in this. I actually thought I had a Sound Blaster 16 in original packaging, but it turns out I don't. But what I have instead is this card here, which is a CT2950. So it's a creative card from about 1995 by the looks of it. So I'm going to stick this in, and this should be a pretty good match for this machine, I think. And let's put it all back together and do the final reveal. And here it is at last. Doesn't it look fantastic? That extra day in the sun has made all the difference to the colour. Perhaps the 5¼ inch drive could do with a little bit more sun, but everything else looks fantastic compared to what it did when we first got it. I'm really happy with this machine. It's easy to work on inside. It has a nice layout. It's a very good looking machine. It's small and compact, easy to carry about. It has a very reliable hard drive from what I can tell, and of course the machine is fast. So it really ticks all the boxes for me, exactly what I wanted for doing programming. And one of the things I want to do with this is a programming tutorial for VGA on our sister channel, PC Retro Programmer. It'll be a while before that appears. I've got other series running at the moment, but this is definitely the machine that I'm going to use for that. That's literally all the time I have for this week. Thanks again for watching. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in a later video. Bye!